just kind of start telling your story, you just interrupt and straighten me out at any point right here. Phyllis started coming to the Christian Storytelling Conference, and there's a whole background of how that happened. Mike Lockett kept bugging her about coming, and so she finally came. And the thing that you told me, she said, after you went to the conference the first time, you, as I recall, you gave me a call, or at least emailed me, and you said something along this way. It says, John, it says, I haven't been to church in 20 years. Is that right? Yeah, I haven't been to church in 20 years. I don't even own a Bible. My husband's an atheist. And then she said, oh, well, let me just ask you. Can I do a workshop next year?
I did say that.
I said, sure. I knew she does tremendous workshops, and you're gonna experience this afternoon. I said, sure, you can do a workshop. So she came to one fantastic workshop. I know storytellers know their audience, and so I knew she would not do anything that would be offensive to our Christian audience. And after that, during that year, we really pushed mission trips and everything. And after the conference, she called up again and said, John, and remember, I told you I don't even own a Bible. I haven't been in church in 20 years. I married an atheist. Oh, can I go on a mission trip? and I found her a place to go, but as it turned out, she didn't go because of an accident. And is it so far? You got anything to add to all that right there?
No, that's pretty much.
She wanted to go to Israel with us, mainly because the University of Tel Aviv
I was supposed to be at Tel Aviv teaching for a month at the university, and that's when I had the broken neck and the broken back and pain in my leg.
She had done all this research about Israel because she's going to be there for a month, and then couldn't go. And so then she heard I was taking a bunch of storytellers over there, and I said, well, you got to read all the stories of the Bible. But I had been after her to read those stories anyway. I said, Phyllis, I want you to read all the stories.
No, you were after me to read the Bible.
All right.
I kept saying, yeah, I tried, but I didn't really know how to read a Bible. I didn't, it's like, what do you go, page 1, page 2, page 3, and I'd get to about page 6, I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, she said, I tried that, doesn't work, and I said, well, to go to Israel, you have to read all the stories of the Bible.
Yeah, that's not really true either, because first he just told me all I had to do was learn these 12 stories, and I was supposed to pick 12 stories, and none of them meant anything to me, because I'm like, I even called him, I said, Felix, Festus, and Agrippa? Festus, what is this, Bible or Gunsmoke? He said, yeah, okay, you get that one.
I said, yeah, that was yours now.
So it was only...
I helped her, and she said, I picked out all the wicked women of the Bible.
I know, I got Jezebel, I got Athaliah, there was a wicked woman, I had to tell the story. So I just thought I had to learn those 12 stories. It was after I learned the 12 stories, and I went to Angola with him, because I think he thought, she's not going to learn these. He made me come to Angola and tell stories and things. Then after I had the 12 and I was all fired up to go, and he said, oh, by the way, you have to read all 260. I was like, okay. So he only dills it out a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
So she was reading that, and I remember she got about 50. And she really didn't want to do that, but she found out that she could download it into her Kindle, and she travels a lot. She speaks for school districts and different things like that. She flies, and she, well, I could read this on my Kindle while I'm flying, or waiting in the airport. So I'll give it a try. I think about 50 stories in or so, she wrote me an interesting email. She says, John, I thought your book replaced the Bible. I find it doesn't replace the Bible. I wish I had thought of these words. It's a portal to the Bible. She says, when I read a story, I said, I know what you did. You simplified that thing. I wonder what you left out. So she downloaded a free Bible. She'd read the story, and then read it in the Bible. And she'd read the next story, and read the Bible just to see what I left out, and she went all the way through, I think, just going through the whole thing. And by this point, she was definitely going to Israel, so she said, you know, all these churchy people, I better do it again. So she actually did it with 3x5 cards. Like, each story she made out of 3x5 cards, you know, so she could flip through the cards. And she figured she didn't know anything about the Bible, and all these churchy people know so much. You know, so she's got all these, you know, and I think he ended up in about 3 times. We had a lot of fun. She knew she knew the Bible at this point, but she didn't know Christianese. You know, and so we had a lot of fun on that. At her expense, we laughed a lot. You know, she was in the back of the bus, and she picked up someone's. You know, she was on the way to New York to pick up the flight.
Yeah.
And you were reading you had someone else's Bible. You know, and she said, "Golly,
I gotta get me one of these."
Did you know the first 5 books were written by Moses?
And they all started laughing. I said, "Oh, apparently I'm the only one who didn't know that."
Anyway, we had a lot of fun when she was over there. We had a missionary couple that was with us. Even, you know,
John and Cheryl.
Yeah, John and Cheryl, evangelical free, and so Phyllis went to John and said, "Can I ask you, you know, a few questions?" And I think it was about the thing about grace and works and.
Yeah, because John found out I was considering getting baptized in the Jordan River, and so he took it on him. It's like, you can't do this until you understand grace, and so he explained grace to me. I mean, he was just so intense. I'm like, okay, back down. And I would digest that all day, and then John would come and eat breakfast with me, John Fernelli, and I'd say, okay, I think this is what I heard you say, and I would explain it, and he'd say, you got it, lesson 2. And then every day he's giving me a lesson, and he was good, he was intense.
She finally came to me and said, I'd like to get baptized, and she wanted to do a lecture in a Christian storytelling conference. I said, oh, okay to that. And wanted to go on a mission trip, and I said, okay to that. But being baptized in Jordan, I said, no, wait a minute, Phil. She said, I know, I took care of that.
And then I did almost back out at the last minute. I was standing there. There were like 12 of us, I think, got baptized. And I was like 3rd in line. And okay, then I went back to 4th in line. Then I went to 5th. Finally, it was down to me and John Fernelli's wife, Cheryl. And by this time, I'm sobbing and weeping. And I'm just like, it's like, I can't do it. So Cheryl Fernelli turns me around and she says, let me give you a hug. And I said, oh, that'd be the worst thing. So I'm really going to cry. But so she hugged me and I cried some more. She says, what is going on? And I said, I can't do it. I just can't do it. She says, what? She says, you've been prepping for this for like 2-3 years. And I said, Cheryl, I have failed at everything in my life, and I know I'm going to fail at this. And she said, well, yeah. She said, we all do every day. And she says, and the next day you start all over. And she said, I hate to tell you this, but you're being a little bit arrogant. Just get in the water. I looked at her for a minute. I thought, she's a tiny little thing. I think I could take her. But I got the water, and that was good.
To see her face when she came out of that water, though, it was just a thrill of coming out of there. And anyway, when she came to our training, this training right here, actually, the next year, and I had her do this, where we sat and talked about it, and I thought, should I do that? Well, after we were done, we were out in the hallway, and she was crying. I thought, oh, I knew I messed up. I
cry all the time.
I shouldn't have done it. I said, Cheryl, are you crying because of what I did? She says, no, I know. I'm thrilled about that right there. He says, it's my husband, Bob. You know, he's an atheist, and I've been tiptoeing around him, and because I know me becoming a Christian is not, but I need to do with him what you did with me. And so I'm just going to go home and tell him the stories. So she went home, and she has all kinds of stories about that whole experience, which we won't get into. But I remember, Bob, I'm practicing the story. Let me practice with you. And she says she especially enjoyed it when
we were in the car.
Oh yeah.
What was he going to do? He couldn't, throw me out. He's captive. He had to listen.
And just to kind of of the short version of that is eventually he started going to church with her. And then eventually he started meeting with the pastor to talk about salvation and things. And that's when what I told you yesterday. He said, the Pastor Josh said, Bob, are you doing this to kind of keep Phyllis happy? Well, yeah, at first it did, but it's those stories. They're true. They're true. And again, foundations for faith. Foundation was being laid. And here was a guy who considered himself an atheist with the stories, without teaching, without any application, just the stories on one another. Any questions you have further, or anything you want to add?
Well, in fact, and I wouldn't answer his questions. I mean, I'd tell a story and he'd start asking me different questions, and he'd ask questions about Christianity, and I said, I'm not answering that. And he's like, I said, I'm not answering any of it. I said, if you're going to do this, you're doing it for you. I said, if you think you're doing this to make me happy, that boat sailed a long time ago. And I said, you got questions, you go talk to Josh. And I wouldn't answer anything. And by golly, he did. He started going to the pastor and was meeting with him on Saturday mornings. He goes out to eat for breakfast every Saturday morning. I thought, why is he getting home so late? Little did I know he was sitting at church with our pastor every Saturday. So yeah, I wouldn't answer anything for him. I just kept feeding him stories. And for the first time in his life, he turned me one day, he said, I think I've been wrong. I said, oh, wait, give me the recorder. Say it, please. So he goes to church with me and been baptized.
Phyllis and Bob is a real treat.
You did that so that the pastor would be his mentor rather than you?
Yeah, because I didn't want him, I wanted to know that he was doing it for himself and not doing it to keep me happy. All I would do is tell the stories, and I backed way off. And plus, I don't know, I just kind of thought it would be better for him to hear that elsewhere instead of me. I just wanted him to take the responsibility of it. And he did.
So he knows the Lord now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's been baptized and
Join the
comes to church, and like even
faithful serves the Lord there. Yeah.
I'm gone and he'll be at church. I know one of the elders who has really formed a good friendship with my husband. The very first time that I was gone on a trip and Bob went to church without me, that elder came to me. He said, I turned around, I saw him there standing alone. He said, I cried. And he said, then I dried my tears real quick. I went up and I shook his hand and hugged him. He said, because, he says, I kind of held on to him so he wouldn't run away. But yeah, he goes all the time and is on the building committee and is on one of our St. John ministry committees and just really loves it.
So has he gotten into storytelling?
Actually, we were doing a special thing one Sunday. Each Sunday, Josh had us reading some stories. So I said, well, when it's my week, I'm not going to read them. I'm going to tell them. And he said, so, will Bob get up and read one? And I said, yeah, I'll ask him. So I asked Bob, I said, Josh wants us to read these stories. I'm going to tell mine. And Bob said, what? I want to tell. I said, okay. So I taught him how to tell. And he got up in front of the whole church and told, I can't remember which one he did, and he told his story. Everybody in church was just like, oh my gosh. And afterwards they were like, Bob, you were so good. You were so great. And I'm like, I'm chopped over here. I'm a storyteller.
Well, thank you. You're going to be hearing this afternoon. Phyllis is going to be teaching you this afternoon and this evening.